The grand meeting hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement. Representatives from 50 different species filled the circular chamber, their voices creating a mix of clicks, whistles, and words in dozens of languages. Today was special. They would welcome the newest spacefaring race to join their ranks. Humans. Admiral Blake stood straight and tall in his crisp blue uniform, watching from the observation deck as alien diplomats filed into their seats. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his eyes carefully studied each species. Some were tall and thin, others short and wide, and a few looked like they belonged in Earth's oceans rather than in space. "Quite a crowd," said Ambassador Smith, adjusting his tie for the 10th time. "Never thought I'd see the day humans would sit among the stars." Blake simply nodded. He had more pressing concerns than ceremony. Through the massive window behind the council seats, he could see the other species ships. Massive vessels, each one at least 5 miles long, floated like metal whales in the darkness of space. Next to them, the 3 human ships looked like minnows swimming beside giants. The council leader, a tall being with shimmering purple skin, raised all 4 arms for silence. "Today we welcome the representatives of Earth, the newest spacefaring civilization, to achieve faster-than-light travel." Ambassador Smith stepped forward to speak, but Blake noticed the whispers and subtle gestures among the alien representatives. He'd seen those looks before, the same looks battleship captains gave torpedo boats before World War II proved small boats could sink mighty ships. "We are honored to join the Galactic Council," Smith said, his voice clear and confident. "Earth looks forward to peaceful trade and cultural exchange with all species." A large reptilian delegate leaned toward his neighbor, speaking in what he thought was a quiet voice. "Have you seen their ships? They're barely bigger than our scout vessels." His companion, a being that looked like a giant praying mantis, clicked its mandibles in what had to be amusement. Blake kept his face neutral, but inside he smiled. Let them laugh. Let them think Earth's ships were primitive or weak. They hadn't yet learned that humanity had long ago figured out that bigger didn't always mean better. The council leader began listing Earth's achievements. They have colonized 3 solar systems, developed clean fusion power, and maintained peace on their world for 50 years. All impressive accomplishments, but Blake noticed the leader left out humanity's long history of warfare, of constantly improving weapons and defenses, of learning to build things smaller and deadlier with each passing year. After the formal speeches, delegates gathered in small groups, their voices carrying across the hall. Blake walked among them, picking up snippets of conversation. "Their whole fleet couldn't match one of our capital ships. Such tiny vessels. Do they even have proper weapons? Perhaps they need guidance in proper shipbuilding." Ambassador Smith played his part perfectly, accepting their condescending offers of assistance with humble thanks. But Blake saw the glint in the ambassador's eye, the same look that Earth's admirals had when they approved the final designs for humanity's new ships. The 3 Earth vessels hanging in space weren't just ships. They were the result of centuries of human ingenuity, of learning to pack more power into smaller spaces, of developing computers that could think faster than organic brains, of understanding that victory often went to the quick and clever rather than the big and strong. As the gathering wound down, an aide rushed into the hall, whispering urgently to the council leader. Blake watched the leader's purple skin pale to lavender. Something was wrong. The leader's hands shook as he read a message on his datapad. Blake knew what it meant before the announcement came. Somewhere out there, trouble was brewing. And soon, very soon, the council would learn why Earth's ships were small, not because humans couldn't build bigger, but because they didn't need to. He touched the communication device on his wrist, sending a prearranged signal to Earth Command. One word: ready. The council might be laughing now, but Blake knew that laughter wouldn't last. Humanity had learned long ago that the deadliest things often came in small packages, and when the time came, Earth's tiny fleet would show the galaxy exactly what humans could do. 3 months after Earth joined the Galactic Council, The first reports of pirate attacks reached the central chambers. Admiral Blake sat in on the emergency session, watching the Council's reaction to the holographic display showing another destroyed cargo ship. "Fourth attack this week," rumbled the reptilian delegate, his scales darkening with anger. "These pirates grow bolder by the day." The massive screen showed the wreckage of a cargo vessel drifting in space. It had been carrying medical supplies to the outer colonies. Blake noticed something the others missed: the precision of the attack. The pirates weren't just random raiders. They were organized, skilled, and getting better. "We have dispatched our heaviest warships to patrol the trade routes," announced the council leader, his purple skin now a deep violet with stress. "These criminals will soon learn to fear our might." Blake kept quiet, but he watched the tactical display with growing concern. The council's massive ships were impressive, bristling with weapons and covered in thick armor. But they were also slow, taking hours to change course. The pirates' smaller ships could strike and vanish before these behemoths even turned around. 2 weeks later, the council chamber erupted in chaos. 3 more colonies had gone dark near the galactic rim. No distress calls, no warnings, just silence. "This is unprecedented." The mantis-like delegate clicked its mandibles rapidly. "We must respond with overwhelming force." The council's response was predictable. They sent even bigger ships, vessels so massive they could house entire cities within their hulls. Blake watched the tactical displays as these giant ships lumbered through space, always arriving too late to help. During a private meeting, Ambassador Smith approached the council leader. "Earth could provide assistance," he offered carefully. "Our ships are experienced in dealing with quick, mobile threats." The leader's laugh was polite but dismissive. "Thank you, but what could your tiny vessels do that our mighty warships cannot? This requires power and strength, not small ships." Blake stood by the window, looking out at the council's fleet. 10 massive warships had just arrived, each one gleaming with new weapons and armor. Beautiful ships, he thought. Perfect for fighting the last war, but useless against an enemy that refused to stand and fight. That night, as Blake prepared his daily report to Earth Command, an aide burst into his office. "Sir, another attack, but this one's different." The footage showed a council warship, one of their newest, floating dead in space. It wasn't destroyed, it was disabled. The pirates had somehow shut down its engines, slipped past its defenses, and stolen everything of value. Not a single shot had been fired. "They're getting smarter," Blake muttered, studying the attack pattern. "And the council still doesn't understand what they're facing." More attacks followed. The pirates struck like lightning, using tactics that seemed familiar to Blake. Hit-and-run attacks, electronic warfare, precision strikes at weak points. It was like reading from Earth's own naval history books. During the next council session, Blake noticed fear replacing arrogance in the delegates' eyes. Their mighty ships, once thought invincible, were proving useless against an enemy that refused to fight by their rules. Perhaps, the reptilian delegate suggested quietly, we should consider the humans' offer of help. But pride still ruled the council. They launched more big ships, built more powerful weapons, and watched as the pirates danced around their defenses. Blake sent another message to Earth Command that evening. Situation developing as expected. Standing by. He knew what was coming. The pirates would grow bolder, the attacks would get worse, and eventually, the Council would have no choice but to ask for Earth's help. And when that happened, humanity would show the galaxy that size wasn't everything. As he stared out at the stars, Blake remembered an old Earth saying, "Pride goes before a fall." The Council was about to learn that lesson the hard way, and Earth's tiny fleet would be there to pick up the pieces. The day the massive pirate fleet appeared, the Galactic Council's central chamber fell completely silent. On the main display, thousands of ships dropped out of hyperspace near one of the Council's major trade hubs. They weren't hiding anymore. Admiral Blake stood at his usual spot by the window, watching the Council leaders turn various shades of pale. The reptilian delegate's scales had gone almost white. The mantis-like representative's antennae drooped in fear. This is impossible," the council leader stammered, his purple skin now ash-gray. "Our scans show over 5,000 ships." Blake studied the tactical display carefully. The pirate fleet was arranged in a perfect attack formation. These weren't just raiders anymore. This was an invasion force. The first attacks came fast and hit hard. 3 council defense stations went dark in the first hour. The council's massive warships, pride of their space force, moved to respond. But they were too slow, too clumsy. The pirate ships danced around them, striking from multiple angles with surgical precision. "Launch everything we have," ordered the council leader. Every warship, every defense fleet. Blake watched as the council deployed its forces. 200 capital ships, each one massive enough to cast shadows on planets, moved to engage the pirates. Under normal circumstances, it would have been an overwhelming show of force. But these weren't normal circumstances. The battle that followed was brutal and quick. The pirates' smaller ships swarmed around the council's massive warships like angry bees around bears. Their weapons weren't as powerful, but they didn't need to be. They targeted engines, weapons, and communication systems with precision strikes. 30 capital ships lost, reported a frantic aide. We can't even hit them." The council chamber erupted in panic as more reports flooded in. Whole battle groups were going silent. The mighty warships that had been the council's pride for centuries were being systematically taken apart by an enemy they couldn't even catch. Then came the transmission. The main screen lit up with the image of the pirate leader. He wore a black uniform with no markings, his face hidden behind a sleek mask. To the Galactic Council, the voice was calm, almost pleasant. "Your time of easy power is over. Surrender your outer colonies to us, and we might let you keep your core worlds." The council leaders huddled together, their voices hushed and frightened. Their mighty fleet was in ruins. Their defenses were failing. And now they faced an enemy demanding surrender. We need time to discuss terms," the council leader said, his voice shaking. The pirate leader laughed. "You have 6 hours. After that, we start taking worlds by force." As the screen went dark, panic truly set in. Some delegates called for immediate surrender. Others wanted to fight to the last ship. None of them had any real solutions. Finally, the reptilian delegate turned to where Admiral Blake stood quietly watching. "Your ships," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "You said they were experienced with this kind of warfare." Blake nodded slowly. "Earth's fleet stands ready to assist, if the Council formally requests our help." The Council leader looked at the tactical display, where more of his ships were going dark by the minute. His pride warred with his fear. Finally, fear won. "Please," he said, all 4 hands clasped together. "We request Earth's assistance in this crisis." Blake touched his communication device, sending the message he'd been waiting to send. "Execute Case Omega." As he looked out at the stars, Blake allowed himself a small smile. Soon, the galaxy would learn why Earth's ships were small, and the pirates. They were about to learn why humans had survived centuries of warfare on their own world. "Help is coming," he said simply. "I suggest everyone find a good place to watch. This will be educational." 3 hours after the Council's request for help, Admiral Blake stood before the gathered delegates. The massive screen behind him showed a simple star map. "What you're about to see," he said calmly, "is why Earth never built bigger ships." He touched his command tablet, and new dots appeared on the map. Hundreds of them, then thousands. The mantis-like delegate clicked in surprise. "But where did these ships come from? We've never detected them." Blake smiled. "They've been here all along, watching, waiting. Earth developed stealth technology centuries ago. What you thought was our entire fleet was just our diplomatic escort." The tactical display lit up as human ships dropped their stealth fields. They were small, yes, most no longer than a few hundred meters, but they gleamed with technology the Council had never seen before. Proper warships must be large, protested the reptilian delegate. How can such small vessels carry enough weapons or armor? Let me show you, Blake replied. He nodded to Captain Turner, who appeared on the main screen from the bridge of the lead human vessel, the HSS Swift. Sir, Turner reported, all ships are in position. The pirates haven't detected us yet. The council chamber watched in stunned silence as the tactical display showed human ships moving into attack formation. They didn't move like normal ships. They danced through space, their movements precise and deadly. First lesson, Blake announced. Size means nothing if you can't hit your target. The first engagement was over in seconds. 3 human ships, each a fraction of the size of a pirate vessel, swooped in from different angles. Their weapons didn't look impressive. No massive laser cannons or giant missile tubes. Instead, precise beams of energy sliced through the pirate ship's engines, while another beam simply shut down their power systems. What kind of weapons are those? The council leader asked, his purple skin showing patches of amazed blue. Focused electromagnetic pulse beams, Blake explained. Why destroy a ship when you can just turn it off? Our second lesson, precision beats power. More human ships engaged the pirates. Their movements were perfect, coordinated by advanced AI systems that could react faster than organic brains. When the pirates fired back, their shots passed through empty space. The human ships were never where they appeared to be. Holographic projectors, Blake said, noting the council's confusion. Third lesson, deception is a warrior's best friend. On the screen, Captain Turner's face showed grim satisfaction. Sir, the pirates are trying to coordinate a counterattack. Permission to show them our real weapons. Blake nodded. Granted. Time for lesson 4. Never show your full capabilities until you need them. The human ships suddenly changed formation. What looked like simple hull plates shifted, revealing hidden weapon ports. Tiny drones launched by the hundreds, swarming toward the pirate fleet. Autonomous combat units, Blake explained, each one carrying enough firepower to disable a ship twice its size, and all of them linked to our AI combat network. The council watched in amazement as the human fleet, so long dismissed as tiny and weak, systematically took apart the pirate forces. Their ships moved like water, flowing around enemy fire, striking from impossible angles, appearing and disappearing at will. How? The reptilian delegate finally asked. How did you build such advanced ships? Blake's face grew serious. Humanity spent centuries fighting itself. We learned the hard way that the cleverer force usually beats the bigger one. When we reached space, we didn't forget those lessons. We improved on them. The tactical display showed more pirate ships going dark, disabled by weapons they never saw coming. The mighty invasion fleet that had terrified the council was being dismantled by ships they had once mocked. Final lesson, Blake said quietly. Never judge a species by the size of their ships. Judge them by how much they've learned from their history. The council chamber remained silent, watching in awe as humanity's tiny fleet proved that sometimes the smallest predators are the most dangerous. The pirate fleet's response to the human attack was predictable. They tried to overwhelm the smaller ships with sheer numbers. 5,000 pirate vessels against what looked like mere hundreds of human ships. In any normal battle, those odds would mean certain victory. This wasn't a normal battle. They're surrounding our forces, the council leader observed nervously, watching the tactical display. The pirates had formed a massive sphere around the human fleet, their weapons charged. Admiral Blake didn't seem concerned. Captain Turner, he called to the screen. Execute Battle Plan Delta. What happened next left the council chambers in stunned silence. The human fleet suddenly split into smaller groups, each moving with impossible precision. Where the council's big ships needed hours to change direction, the human vessels spun and weaved like dancers. First wave, engage. Turner's voice was calm, and steady. 20 human ships accelerated toward the pirate lines. The pirates opened fire, their massive energy weapons lighting up space, but their targets simply weren't there anymore. The human ships flickered like mirages, each shot passing through empty space. Holographic tech, Blake explained to the bewildered council, mixed with short-range teleportation jumps. Hard to hit what you can't really see. The real human ships appeared inside the pirate formation. Their smaller size, once mocked by the council, now proved deadly. They slipped between the larger pirate ships, finding blind spots in their weapon coverage. Second wave, begin electronic warfare, Turner commanded. Suddenly, the pirate fleet's communication channels filled with static. Their targeting systems showed thousands of false signals. Some of their ships started firing at empty space, while others shot at their own allies by mistake. Chaos, the reptilian delegate whispered. Pure chaos. Blake nodded. Confusion is a weapon too. Watch this. The human drones swarmed through the pirate fleet like angry insects. Each one was barely larger than a human fighter, but they carried specialized weapons. Some fired EMP pulses that shut down ship systems. Others attached themselves to hull plates and cut through them with precise laser drills. A huge pirate battleship, easily 20 times the size of the largest human vessel, spun helplessly as dozens of drones disabled its engines one by one. Its massive weapons were useless against targets too small and quick to track. "Sir," Turner reported, "enemy fleet is breaking formation. They're trying to regroup." Blake's eyes narrowed. Time for the killing stroke. All ships, execute maneuver Wolfpack. The human fleet suddenly shifted again. This time they formed into tight groups of 5 ships each. These groups accelerated toward the scattered pirate fleet, moving in patterns that seemed random but were perfectly coordinated. "Watch closely," Blake told the council. "This is why we build small ships." Each wolf pack picked a target and swarmed it from multiple angles. The first ship would disable shields, the second would jam communications, the third would knock out weapons, and the last 2 would systematically cripple engines and life support. The pirates tried to fight back, but their large ships were like bulls trying to catch mice. They turned too slowly, fired too late, and couldn't protect their vulnerable spots from multiple attackers. 50 enemy ships disabled, Turner reported. 100, 200. The council watched in amazement as the mighty pirate fleet fell apart. Ships that could have easily destroyed entire planets were being taken apart piece by vessels they had dismissed as too small to matter. How? The Mantis delegate clicked. How are they so coordinated? Combat networks, Blake explained. Every ship, every drone, all linked together. Moving as one mind, but able to act independently. Something that only works with smaller, more agile ships. The battle wasn't over, but its outcome was now certain. The pirates were learning the hard way what the council was beginning to understand. Humanity's ships weren't small because they were weak. They were small because that's what worked best. As the battle entered its final phase, Admiral Blake received a message from Earth Command. He read it and smiled. "Captain Turner," he called to the screen, "you are authorized to reveal our full capabilities." The council chamber grew quiet. Full capabilities. The reptilian delegate asked nervously. "You mean there's more?" "Much more," Blake replied. "What you've seen so far was just our standard combat protocol. Now you'll see why Earth never feared any threat from space." On the tactical display, the human ships suddenly began to change. What looked like normal hull plates shifted and transformed. Hidden compartments opened. New weapons emerged from seemingly solid metal. "Quantum phase technology," Blake explained. "Our ships can restructure themselves during battle. Every vessel carries 3 different combat configurations." The council watched in awe as the human fleet transformed. Small ships became smaller, faster, deadlier. Their hulls now bristled with weapons that hadn't existed moments before. Impossible. The Mantis delegate clicked. No ship can change its structure during combat. Human ships can, Blake said simply. We learned long ago that survival means adaptation. Captain Turner's voice came through clear and confident. All ships execute final configuration. Deploy Omega-class weapons. The pirate fleet, already in chaos, faced something entirely new. Human ships simply phased through their strongest shields as if they weren't there. Others fired weapons that bent space itself, trapping pirate vessels in bubbles of distorted time. What kind of weapons are these? The council leader asked, his purple skin now almost white with shock. The kind we hoped we'd never need, Blake answered. Quantum disruption beams, temporal stasis fields, gravity manipulation arrays. Technology we developed over centuries of preparing for worst-case scenarios. A massive pirate battleship tried to flee. 3 human ships, each no bigger than its smallest gun turret, caught it in a triangular formation. Beams of pure energy connected the 3 ships, forming a pyramid of light. Inside that pyramid, the massive battleship simply stopped existing. Don't worry, Blake said, noting the council's horror. We didn't destroy it. That ship and its crew now exist about 3 minutes out of sync with normal time. They'll rejoin our timeline once they've had time to reconsider their life choices. The remaining pirates finally realized the truth. They weren't fighting a small, weak fleet. They were fighting something they couldn't understand, something that had been holding back until now. Enemy fleet is broadcasting surrender signals, Turner reported. All frequencies, all languages. Blake nodded. Accept their surrender. Temporal sink any ships we displaced. Begin rescue operations for damaged vessels. The council chamber erupted in excited chatter. Species that had once mocked Earth's tiny ships now looked at them with new respect, and more than a little fear. Why? The reptilian delegate finally asked. Why did you let us mock you? Why hide your true strength? Blake turned to face the council, his expression serious. Because humanity learned the hard way that showing off your power often leads to unnecessary fights. We prefer to be underestimated. It makes diplomatic solutions more likely. He gestured to the tactical display, where human ships were now helping disabled pirate vessels. We built small ships because they work better. We hid our true capabilities because peace works better. And we only revealed them now because sometimes you need to show strength to prevent future conflicts. The council leader stood, all 4 arms raised in a gesture of respect. We clearly have much to learn from humanity. Yes, Blake agreed, watching his ships at work. But perhaps the most important lesson is this. Never judge a species by their appearance. Judge them by the wisdom they've gained from their history. Outside the chamber windows, Earth's tiny fleet continued their work, their transformed hulls gleaming in the starlight. They had come to the galaxy in peace, hidden their strength out of wisdom, and revealed it only when necessary. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. 1 week after the battle, the Galactic Council held a special session. The chamber, once filled with mockery toward human ships, now held a very different atmosphere. Admiral Blake stood at the center, surrounded by delegates who had learned an unforgettable lesson about judging others. The council leader, his purple skin now showing respectful patterns of gold, spoke first. Humanity has done more than save us from pirates. You have opened our eyes to our own limitations. Blake nodded, looking around the chamber. The tactical display still showed human ships helping with cleanup operations. Their vessels, no longer hiding their true nature, shifted forms as needed, becoming repair platforms, rescue ships, or debris collectors with seamless ease. We were wrong, the reptilian delegate admitted, his scales showing a humble blue tint. We thought size meant power. We thought bigger meant better. We were blind to true innovation. Ambassador Smith stepped forward, standing beside Blake. Earth wishes to share some of our technology, he announced. Not our most advanced systems, but enough to help modernize your fleets. The chamber erupted in excited whispers. The Mantis delegate clicked rapidly. You would share your secrets. even after we mocked you. Especially because you mocked us, Blake replied. It proved you weren't ready for our more advanced technology. But now you've learned an important lesson about assumptions and pride. On the main screen, Captain Turner appeared from the bridge of the Swift. Behind him, his crew worked efficiently at stations that seemed to shift and change as needed, adapting to each new task. The first principle we'd like to share, Turner explained, is adaptive design. Ships shouldn't be locked into one configuration. They should change based on their mission. The Council watched in amazement as Turner's bridge transformed, stations moving and reorganizing themselves for maximum efficiency. Even the chair he sat in adjusted its shape to better support him as he turned to face different screens. But how? The Council leader asked. How did humans develop such advanced technology, while the rest of us focused on size? Blake's face grew serious. Necessity. Earth spent centuries divided, fighting ourselves. We had to learn to build better, not bigger. To think smarter, not larger. Every war, every conflict taught us new lessons about efficiency and adaptation. He touched a control, and the screen showed Earth's military history. Ancient battles where smaller, faster forces defeated larger armies. Naval engagements where tiny submarines threatened massive battleships. Air combat where agility meant more than size. When we reached space, Blake continued, we applied those lessons. While other species built bigger ships, we built smarter ones. While you focused on power, we focused on precision. Ambassador Smith stepped forward. Earth will establish a training program. We'll help your engineers understand our basic technology. Your crews will learn new tactics. Together, we'll build a safer galaxy. The Council formally voted to accept Earth's offer. As the delegates filed out, many stopped to shake Blake's hand or offer their species' equivalent of respect. The chamber, once filled with mockery, now held hope for a better future. Later, standing by his favorite window, Blake watched the combined fleet working together. Human ships danced between massive council vessels, teaching them new ways to move, new ways to fight, new ways to think about space combat. You know, Ambassador Smith said, joining him at the window, they'll never look at a small ship the same way again. Blake smiled. Good. Maybe next time they meet a new species, they'll remember that size isn't everything. That true strength comes in many forms. Outside, a human ship transformed from combat mode to repair configuration, its hull flowing like liquid metal. Nearby, a council vessel twice its size tried to copy the movement, managing a crude but promising attempt. They're learning, Blake said softly. And that's the greatest victory of all. The stars twinkled beyond the window, watching as the galaxy species learned perhaps the most important lesson of all. Never judge a civilization's strength by the size of their ships, but by the wisdom they carry within them.